Greetings here from Pintpot. Welcome to my latest episode of Climbing the Curve, a series intended to make the steep learning curve in Planetside 2 that little bit easier. Today we'll be taking a look at the heavy assault, the backbone of any successful infantry push. Now, one of the advantages of using the heavy assault as a new player is it's pretty much good to go straight out of the box, with one or two caveats which I'll get into later. This means that unlike the light assault, you don't have to dump a whole load of certs into it to make it really viable. As an example, the special ability of the heavy assault is ability to shield itself. When its energy is at maximum, this increases the amount of damage it can take by about 600. Now, when the heavy assault's default shield is fully upgraded, all it does is reduce the recharge time from 60 seconds to 45. When you compare this to the light assault being able to upgrade its jump jets by up to 60% from both flight time and regeneration, there's no comparison. In addition, as both a VS and TR, the default weapons you receive as the heavy assault are both excellent for beginners. I'm afraid I cannot say the same for the NC, who unfortunately start off with a very bespoke specialised weapon, the NC Gauss. However, for the very modest investment of 100 certs, you can change this to the GT22, which is much more beginner friendly. For characters playing the NC, I highly recommend you do this, and come back to the Gauss much later. In this way, you can avoid much frustration trying to work out how to best use this very idiosyncratic gun. Now, another reason why the heavy assault is a very good class to start off with is its ability to muscle down opponents. Utilising its shield, it effectively gets an additional 600 health, so in head-on-head confrontations it is a big advantage. However, it remains just as vulnerable as the other classes to being flanked. This additional durability is very useful, especially when you're just beginning in the game and don't have your aim quite down yet. This combination of extended magazines along with additional durability means that you can control entire firing lanes, muscling down opponents by just putting down more firepower than they can put back. Engagements of this sort of distance, especially when both sides are using partial cover, are very much in favour of the heavy assault. Which brings me to the other special feature of the heavy assault, the rocket launcher. The rocket launcher allows the heavy assault to engage all targets, be they light or heavy, at an extended range, unlike all the other classes. All other classes are reliant on using C4, which requires you to close the gap with a target, putting you in great danger. In comparison, the rocket launcher can be used to fire both heavy targets and enemy strong points from relative safety of cover. This is especially useful for firing at camp doorways and choke points, as the high alpha damage means you only have to expose yourself very briefly. In addition, it's incredibly useful for dealing with maxes. Max's 80% resistance to small arms fire does not apply to rocket launchers. The default dumbfire rocket will take off about 60% of a max's health. In addition, rockets are brilliant for taking out engineer turrets, whereas if they take out the turret and the engineer is still using it, the engineer will always die. This allows newer players to engage these hard targets from a safer distance, rather than having to close the gap to C4 them. One thing to note is that the hip fire accuracy of rocket launchers is incredibly poor, so if you want to take one out, make sure you aim down the sights. Now, the next question is, how do heavy assaults do in close quarter combat? Most capture points are within buildings, meaning that close quarter combat is incredibly important in Planetside 2. And when it comes to the heavy assault, it's a little bit of a mixed picture. Firstly, their default weapon, the LMG, has very poor hip-fire accuracy. This means to maintain accuracy at anything other than point-blank range, you need to aim down the sights. This in turn slows you down to half your normal speed. Even just activating your shield decreases your speed to 75% normal. So it becomes a trade-off. Speed and mobility for the lighter class versus durability and staying power for the heavy assault. Now, as a general rule in these circumstances, I would say the heavy assault has the advantage. You cannot overestimate how important that additional health from the shield is, as so many fights go down to the wire. However, if a lighter class surprises or flanks you, they can definitely put you down. Now, one of the most attractive points of the heavy assault is its ability to take on any opponent, including heavy armour. However, it is important to realise that when you're fighting enemy armour, you're not expected to take them out single-handedly. Rocket launchers require multiple hits to take out a tank, whereas a tank can take you down pretty much instantly. Therefore, to take out armour as a heavy assault, you have to work effectively as a team. This is a very different playstyle from the light assault, which tends to try and solo armour using C4. Not that the heavy assault can't get C4, all classes other than infiltrators can, it just can't close the gap nearly as easily. When engaging enemy tanks, it's important not to overcommit. You can see from the details I've posted above just how many shots it takes to kill an enemy tank. So the only time you really want to put your neck on the line is when the enemy tank is on fire, such as here. As it was, he jumped straight out of the frying pan into the fire. However, whenever you're feeling like a hero, always be aware of the fact that enemy tanks can take you out in a single shot. When fighting enemy armour, cover and speed are your best friends. So, in conclusion, though the heavy assault lacks some of the wow factor you can get from light assaults and infiltrators with their respective flanking and stealth maneuvers, it remains an incredibly rewarding class to play. I think this is principally because, with the tools at your disposal, you can effectively deal with any threat put in your way. From a beginner's perspective, this is particularly useful, as for many other classes, to reach their full potential requires a lot more investment. The only caveat being that dealing with air with dumbfire missiles is rather difficult. Now in my next episode I'm going to take a quick look at maxes, and in a later episode take another look at heavy assaults and what to invest your certs into. In the meantime, have a good one, happy hunting, and Pintpot out.